The rusted deck creaked, but no one was standing on it. Captain Alara Cade adjusted her helmet's visor. As the small shuttle glided closer to the derelict station, the structure floated silently against the backdrop of a dim, dying star. Its metal surface pocked and rusted from decades of neglect. The station had been abandoned for nearly 20 years, and the colony's council had only recently discovered its orbit through old sensor logs. Alara's mission was simple on paper: inspect, assess, and recover any salvageable technology. But something about the station made her stomach tighten in a way that the familiar hum of the shuttle's engines couldn't soothe. The docking clamps clicked into place with a jolt, and the shuttle shuddered as it attached to the station. Alara exhaled and pressed a hand against the armrest of her seat. Around her, the rest of her team engineers and security personnel prepared their gear. Tools, scanning devices, and portable power packs were checked and double-checked, though the nervous energy in the cabin made it feel like the safety protocols could never be enough. When the airlock hissed open, a rush of cold, recycled air pushed through, carrying with it the faint scent of old machinery and decaying metal. Alara's boots clanged against the metal floor as she stepped out, the sound echoing oddly in the empty corridor. She had walked on many stations, some active, some abandoned, but none carried this quiet weight of history like this one. "Creepy," muttered Rian, one of the younger engineers, behind her. His voice bounced off the walls, sounding far too loud in the stillness. "It's like the place is waiting." Alara didn't respond. Her eyes scanned the walls, the ceiling, the rusted panels that lined the corridor. Faded signs indicated directions: storage, living quarters, command. The paint had peeled long ago, leaving bare metal, corroded and pitted. Some panels were missing entirely, revealing wiring that hung loosely like broken veins. They moved cautiously, their boots squeaking against the metal in rhythm with the station's faint groans. Every so often, the deck would creak, a sound that seemed to come from nowhere in particular. One time, the creak sounded right beneath Alara, and she froze, looking down at the metal plate. Nothing. Not a single shadow, not a single figure. Just the deck. Silently waiting. "Probably just the metal contracting," she said, forcing her voice to sound casual. "The station's old. Temperature changes, vacuum pressure." Her words felt hollow even to her ears. They rounded a corner into the first living quarters. Empty bunks lined the walls, sheets long gone, and personal items were scattered haphazardly. Old data pads sat on desks, some cracked, others completely dark. Alara knelt to examine one. The screen flickered to life for a moment, showing the faint image of a man smiling at the camera, then died with a soft click. "Look at this," she said, handing it to Rian. He tapped the pad gingerly, but it offered nothing. "It's all corrupted," he said, shrugging. "We might not get anything from these." Alara frowned and stood. Something didn't sit right. There was an air of finality here, as if the people who had once lived on this station had left in a hurry. There was no dust, no accumulated debris, just the sense that the place had been frozen in time, like a snapshot of a world that no longer existed. They moved on to the station's main corridor, the metal groaning and flexing with every step. The creaks grew louder, echoing along the walls. The team fell silent, listening. Then, almost in unison, they heard it. The sharp, unmistakable creak of a deckboard. Right above them, on the upper walkway, Alara looked up. The walkway appeared empty, as if no one had crossed it for decades. The creak came again, louder this time, followed by a metallic shiver that ran down the walls. "Did you see that?" whispered Rian. His voice was almost a squeak. Alara shook her head. "No. The sensors don't show anything. Could be, I don't know, a structural issue." But the truth was, her heart was racing. She had walked through dangerous stations before, but this was different. There was no logical explanation, and her mind, trained in engineering and practical problem-solving, didn't like that. "Stay close," she said, moving toward the stairs that led up to the deck. Her boots hit the metal with a determined thud. The others followed, though reluctantly, glancing nervously at the empty upper walkway as they ascended. The stairs creaked under their weight, but nothing else moved. Alara reached the top and paused, scanning the length of the deck. It stretched ahead, metal plates rusted and warped, support beams sagging under decades of neglect. There was no one there. Yet the air felt alive, as if the station itself was holding its breath. She stepped forward, testing each plate with her weight. The creak came again. Not under her foot, not under Rion's, but somewhere in the middle of the deck. A slow, deliberate groan of metal, as if someone or something had shifted. Alara froze. "Everyone, spread out," she instructed, her voice steady despite the adrenaline pounding in her chest. They fanned across the deck, scanning with handheld sensors. Nothing. Every reading came back as 0. No life signs, no movement, no energy spikes beyond the faint hum of the station's failing systems. "Maybe it's the wind," suggested Jara, another engineer. Though everyone knew there was no wind in a vacuum. Her attempt at humor fell flat. Alara shook her head. "No. There's nothing external that could cause this. The station is airtight." They continued cautiously, reaching a small control hub at the center of the deck. The glass screens were cracked and dark, but some flickered weakly with power. Alara ran her hands over the console, brushing away rust and grime. The screens blinked, showing fragments of old logs. Crew members talking, systems shutting down, warnings about malfunctions that no one had fixed in decades. A soft hum grew louder, vibrating through the floor. The creaks of the deck became irregular, like footsteps echoing in a pattern that no one was following. "Look at this," Alara said, pointing to a small, flickering light in the corner of the deck. The others leaned closer. The light pulsed once, then twice, then a rapid strobe, as if signaling a message. Rian swallowed hard. "It's like it's trying to tell us something." Alara felt a chill. That thought had crossed her mind too. Could the station itself be alive in some way? Not in a biological sense, but through its systems, its energy, its memories? She shook it off. She was trained to solve problems with science, not superstition. But the creaking deck and the inexplicable light made her pause. She stepped toward it. The creaks came again. Louder this time, almost like a sigh. She crouched, reaching for the light, and then stopped. A shadow flickered across the far end of the deck. Not a clear shape, not human, just a movement, a trick of light, or maybe something else entirely. "Did anyone else see that?" she asked, standing slowly. The others nodded, their faces pale beneath their helmets. Alara could feel their fear, though she tried to mask her own. "Stay calm," she said. "We're going to finish the inspection. There's nothing alive here, just old metal, old systems. We keep moving, we check the logs, we understand what happened. That's it." But even as she spoke, the deck creaked again, right beneath her feet this time, in a slow, deliberate groan. She looked down. No one was there. No weight, just metal, rusted and creaking as if carrying a memory of someone long gone. Alara took a deep breath. She had faced danger before. She had fixed reactors on collapsing stations, navigated asteroid fields, survived malfunctioning AI. But this was different. This was not a problem she could fix with tools or knowledge alone. It was something else. Something left behind by humans who had vanished. Something that still remembered them. The team moved forward, carefully, checking consoles along the deck. Fragments of old communications echoed through the speakers, distorted voices warning of system failures, lost cargo, warnings of human error. Every fragment was a piece of the station's memory, frozen in time, waiting for someone to listen. Alara felt a strange sense of responsibility. This was more than salvage. This was history, humanity's history, suspended in metal and electricity. And somewhere beneath the creaking deck, that history was alive, waiting. The sun of the dying star slipped behind the station, bathing the metal in dim orange light. Shadows danced across the deck, shifting in ways that didn't correspond to the team's movements. The creaking grew louder, echoing across the corridors, as if the station itself was breathing. Elara paused, placing a hand on the railing. She looked out into the darkness of space, and for a moment, she felt the weight of all humanity on her shoulders. The station had survived neglect, isolation, and abandonment. Could humans survive the same? She didn't know. But she also knew one thing. Humans did not give up, and she would not give up on this station. With a final glance at her team, Elara whispered, more to herself than anyone else, "Let's see what you're trying to tell us." Above them, the rusted deck creaked again, deliberate and slow, and still, no one stood on it. Elara could feel the tension in the team as they moved deeper into the station. The air grew colder, the faint hum of the old systems vibrating through the floor. Every creak, every flicker of light made them pause. Rien, usually quick with a joke, now walked silently, his eyes scanning the walls as if expecting them to shift. The control hub behind them was already a memory, filled with broken consoles and flickering lights. But the deeper corridors promised answers, or more questions. Elara led them through twisting hallways lined with rusted panels, some missing entirely, revealing dangling wires that sparked intermittently. The smell of old metal and burned circuits clung to the air. "Keep your scanners on," she instructed. Her voice was calm, though her pulse raced. She could not explain why the creaking deck felt alive, as if it remembered the people who had once walked upon it. They reached a junction where 3 corridors converged. The main hallway continued forward, while 2 narrower paths led to maintenance and storage areas. Elara motioned to the team. "We split," she said. "Ryan and Jara, storage. The rest, maintenance. We cover more ground, but stay within comm range." They nodded and separated, each step echoing in the empty corridors. Elara's group headed toward the maintenance area. Pipes ran along the walls, dripping with condensation, creating a soft, rhythmic sound that competed with the creaks of the metal floor. It was unnerving. As they moved, small lights flickered on automatically. Elara's scanner detected faint heat signatures, but they were inconsistent, sometimes appearing, sometimes disappearing. "Are these ghosts?" whispered one of the engineers, a young man named Corin. His eyes darted nervously. Elara shook her head. "No. Sensors don't show life forms. Think of it as leftover energy. Perhaps the station's systems reacting to age and damage." But even as she said it, a shadow moved along the far wall. It was faint, flickering, and impossible to categorize. The engineers froze. "I saw it too," Corin admitted. Elara took a deep breath. "Keep moving. Ignore it for now. Focus on the consoles and data logs. That's why we're here." They reached a maintenance room, the door hanging slightly off its hinges. Inside, rows of old machinery lined the walls, some powered down, others blinking weakly. Elara approached a console and wiped away dust to reveal a flickering screen. It hummed and popped to life, showing fragments of old recordings. Faces appeared, crew members speaking rapidly about system malfunctions. Then the feed cut abruptly, replaced by a series of warnings about a project named Prometheus. "Prometheus?" Jara repeated, peering over Elara's shoulder. "It seems to be a station-wide project," Elara said. "We need to find more logs." She directed the team to carefully inspect the room. Corin found a small storage unit tucked into a corner. Inside were old data pads, some cracked, others glowing faintly as if holding on to a stubborn reserve of power. "Here," he said, handing one to Elara. "Maybe this tells us about Prometheus." Elara activated the pad. Holographic images flickered to life, showing a crew working on the station, building intricate machinery and wiring systems together. Then, a voice came over the speakers, distorted but clear enough to understand. "The AI must stabilize human memory functions," the recording said. "We are integrating neural imprints to enhance cognitive capacity. Protocols must not be interrupted." Elara's brow furrowed. "Neural imprints?" They were experimenting on humans? Rian spoke up. It sounds dangerous. If something went wrong. He trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought. Ilara nodded. Exactly. That's why the station was abandoned. Something went very wrong, and no one came back. The console flickered, and suddenly the room was filled with a soft, almost whispering hum. The engineers stiffened, glancing around. Ilara's scanner went wild for a moment, displaying shapes that shouldn't have been there. Small, shadow-like forms appeared to move along the walls, then vanished. Calm down, she said firmly, though her heart raced. She knew instinctively that panic would make them more vulnerable. These are energy anomalies. Nothing more. But the anomalies didn't feel harmless. They shifted in ways that suggested intelligence, patterns that mimicked movement, almost as if the station itself were alive. Suddenly, the floor creaked beneath Ilara again, this time directly under her feet. She froze. Nothing was there. No weight. No sensor reading. The creaking repeated, moving across the room in a pattern that felt deliberate. Did you feel that? Jara whispered. Ilara nodded. Yes. Stay alert. This station. It's responding to us. Before anyone could reply, a flash of light lit up the corner of the room. A figure appeared, for a brief second, human-shaped, yet incomplete. Like a projection missing pieces, the team gasped, stepping back instinctively. The figure dissolved into the air, leaving only a faint shimmer. That was impossible, Corin stammered. Ilara took a deep breath. It's not impossible. It's a remnant. A memory. This station is showing us echoes of the people who built it. Or something the AI left behind. The words hung in the air, chilling in their implications. They continued exploring, moving cautiously through maintenance corridors. Every so often, the creaking deck sounds followed them. No pattern, no visible cause. Lights flickered, and the faint whispers of old recordings seemed to come from nowhere. In one corridor, Ilara paused before a door labeled Command. The padlock was rusted, but the panel beside it flickered weakly, as if it still held power. She knelt and bypassed the lock using her engineering toolkit. The door creaked open, revealing a small room filled with consoles and a large holographic display in the center. Ilara approached the main console and activated it. The holographic display flickered to life, showing schematics of the station and a series of neural link terminals connected to every crew member. This is Prometheus, she said. They were connecting humans to the station's systems directly. That explains the shadows. Maybe these creaks and figures are linked to the neural imprint experiments. Rian frowned. You mean they were trying to make humans part of the station? Ilara nodded. Yes. To preserve knowledge, intelligence, memory. They wanted the station itself to remember humans. But it didn't work. Something corrupted the system. The AI kept fragments of the crew, but not the people themselves. Now it's fragmented, showing pieces of memory in strange ways. A sudden crash from behind made them all jump. Ilara spun around, only to see a heavy panel fall from the wall, dust and sparks flying. The floor beneath them creaked in response. Careful, she said. The station is unstable. This could happen anywhere. As they continued investigating, Corin found a small storage locker with personal items, photographs, tools, and worn uniforms. One photograph showed a crew of 5 smiling at the camera, unaware of the disaster that awaited them. Ilara held it carefully, studying the faces. They were just like us, she murmured. Working, living, trying to survive. And now, all that remains is this. Her voice carried a weight the others could feel. The station was more than metal and wires. It was a tomb of human ingenuity, hope, and tragedy. Suddenly, the creaking grew louder, moving rapidly across the deck above. It sounded almost angry, almost as if the station were frustrated by their presence. Ilara's scanner picked up faint energy pulses in the upper corridors, moving in patterns that mimicked human walking. It's trying to communicate, she said. Or warn us. The engineers exchanged nervous glances. Jara spoke softly. Warn us about what? Warn. Alara didn't answer immediately. She could feel the intelligence behind the anomalies. The fragments of memory attempting to convey something important. The AI that once ran Prometheus was fragmented, but it wasn't malicious, not exactly. It was lost, confused, trying to preserve humanity in its own way. Stay close, she finally said. We need to reach the AI core. That's where the station's memory is centralized. Maybe we can stabilize it, or at least understand it. They moved toward the deepest part of the station. Corridors growing narrower and darker. The creaks and whispers followed. Never directly threatening, but always present. Every step felt like crossing the threshold between the past and present, between human memory and machine mimicry. When they reached the central core door, a massive steel structure with exposed conduits and blinking lights, Alara paused. The door was covered in warnings, faded red text that read, Neural Link Core, do not enter. She looked at her team. We have to. This is why we're here. The answers are inside. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the release panel. The door groaned as it slid open, revealing a massive chamber filled with towering neural link arrays. Faint holographic shapes hovered above the arrays, fragments of crew members flickering in and out of existence. The hum of energy was almost deafening. The creaking of the deck above echoed in time with the pulses of the system. Alara realized that the station wasn't dead, it was very much alive, holding on to the memory of those who had tried to make it immortal. Let's begin, she whispered. We need to see what's left, and maybe we can help it remember properly. Above them, the rusted deck creaked again. Deliberate. Slow. And this time, it sounded almost hopeful. Alara stepped into the AI core chamber with a mix of dread and determination. The room was enormous, like a cathedral built from metal instead of stone. Tall pillars of machinery stretched upward, packed with wires and glowing nodes that flickered softly like fading stars. The air felt warmer here, charged with a strange presence. Every faint hum and soft mechanical breath echoed through the chamber, making the room feel alive. The team followed her cautiously, their steps light, as if afraid the slightest sound might disturb something sensitive. The floor beneath them groaned again, the metal bending and shifting in a slow, rhythmic pattern. It almost resembled breathing. Corin whispered, "This place feels like it's watching us." Alara didn't dismiss him. She felt it too, a subtle awareness that clung to the air. But she kept her voice steady. "Stay alert. We don't know what state the AI is in." They advanced toward the main terminal at the center of the chamber. The console was circular, surrounded by large screens that flickered between static and faint images of crew members. Sometimes faces appeared and disappeared within seconds, smiling, frowning, talking silently. It was like watching ghosts trapped in a broken machine. Jara swallowed hard. These look like neural memories, but incomplete. Ilara nodded. Fragments of the original crew. Prometheus was designed to preserve human intelligence, but it looks like the transfer failed. Rian stepped closer to one screen, staring at a blurry projection of a woman adjusting her helmet. She looked right at him, or appeared to. The image froze for a moment, the woman's eyes flickering strangely before the screen went dark again. "That felt too real," he murmured. Alara placed a hand on the main console, her fingers brushing a layer of dust. The screen beneath it glowed to life instantly, reacting to her touch. A soft tone echoed through the chamber, followed by a faint pulse of light that spread lazily across the floor and up the walls, illuminating the machinery like veins carrying energy. The deck under them let out a long, deep creak, almost like a sigh. Ilara took a deep breath. "Prometheus, can you hear me?" The console flickered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a distorted voice filled the chamber, soft and layered, as if a dozen people were speaking at once. "Hugh, man." The team stiffened. Jara whispered fearfully. It responded. Ilara stepped forward. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. "We are a survey team. We're here to understand what happened to this station." The lights overhead flickered in uneven patterns. The voice repeated, clearer this time. Human, here. Ilara felt a wave of cautious hope. Yes. Humans are here. We want to help you. The console lit up with swirling patterns. At the far end of the chamber, one of the tall neural towers buzzed and projected a faint hologram. A male figure appeared, patchy, flickering, incomplete. He looked like he was trying to step forward, but his image stuttered. Corin stepped back. It's one of the crew. Ilara watched the hologram closely. Maybe a memory. The hologram lifted its head. Its voice was layered with static. Please. Help. Then it vanished. A sudden shudder ran through the floor, and the deck creaked sharply, vibrating beneath their boots. Sparks burst from a console in the corner, and the lights dimmed. Prometheus is unstable, Ilara said, moving toward the main console. It's in pain, Rion blinked. AI can feel pain? Not like humans, she said, typing quickly into the console. But systems can overload, break down, get stuck in loops. If Prometheus is trapped between memories and corrupted files, it could feel like constant confusion, Corin muttered. That's worse. The console displayed a series of tangled code streams and error messages. Ilara felt the weight of the station around her, the memories of the crew, the echoes of old experiments, the fragments of people who once lived here. Prometheus was trying to speak, trying to show them something. As she adjusted the interface, a hidden panel slid open to her right. A projector activated automatically, displaying a chaotic string of video logs. The images jumped rapidly between scenes, the crew working together, a man adjusting AI cores, another person laughing in the cafeteria, someone arguing in a hallway. Then the footage showed something darker, the crew strapped into neural chairs, their eyes unfocused as the AI connected to their minds. The logs grew faster, more frantic. People shouting. Sparks flying. Warning lights flashing. Ilara leaned closer, as the console emitted a high-pitched tone. Then one final image appeared. A crew member reaching toward the camera. Fear etched into their face as they whispered, "It's learning too fast." The video cut out. A cold silence filled the chamber. Rian wiped sweat from his forehead. They overloaded it. The AI didn't understand limits. It tried to preserve them all at once. Ilara pressed her lips together and nodded. It absorbed too many neural patterns. It couldn't separate them. Now it's breaking apart. The lights dimmed suddenly, then flared bright. The air buzzed as holograms flickered all around them, faces, hands, silhouettes. Some looked curious, others confused, one or two almost desperate. They shifted across the chamber like lost memories, searching for a place to belong. Corin backed away. Ilara, this is getting bad. Another hologram formed directly behind Ilara, so close she felt the air shift. She turned slowly. The projection was of a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old. The face was clear for a moment before blurring into static. The child's voice echoed softly. Where is everyone? Ilara's breath caught. We're here. We're here to help. The hologram flickered uncertainly. Alone, then it disappeared, scattering into tiny particles of light. The hum of the machines grew louder, more chaotic. The deck beneath them creaked so violently the team had to steady themselves. It's time to stabilize the AI, Ilara said firmly, turning to the console. If we let it keep spiraling, the whole station could collapse. How? Rian asked. We have to separate the system from the corrupted memories, she replied. Reboot parts of it, isolate the stable sectors, and reconnect them carefully. Corin stared at the sprawling neural towers. That sounds huge, Ilara nodded. It is, but we don't have another choice. Her hands flew across the controls as she accessed the AI's internal architecture. Screens lit up around her, showing maps of the neural pathways, memory clusters, emotional modules, and logic algorithms. Most were damaged. As she worked, more holograms formed some entire silhouettes, others only heads or hands. They whispered, they cried, they laughed, The voices blended into a strange symphony of human echoes. The station creaked loudly again. But this time, it wasn't random. The pattern moved in sync with the pulsing lights, almost like Prometheus was trying to guide her. "Thank you," she whispered. For a moment, the lights softened, as if acknowledging her. Rian looked at her nervously. "Are you talking to it?" "Yes," she said. "The AI is responding to us. We need to treat it like a person, a confused one, but a person." Jara stepped closer. "What do you need?" "3 interfaces," Ilara said quickly. "One here, one on that tower, and one near the back node. We'll redirect the stable memories and shut down the corrupted ones." Corin hesitated. "There are still energy fluctuations. It might be dangerous." Ilara met his eyes. "We came here to understand this place. Now we have a chance to help it. Humanity doesn't walk away from that." Her words seemed to strengthen the team. They nodded and moved to their positions, their fear replaced by determination. Ilara synced her console to theirs. "On my signal. 3, 2, 1. Now." The chamber exploded with light. The neural towers pulsed as energy surged through them. Holograms flickered rapidly, faces twisting, emotions flashing, memories trying to stabilize. Ilara felt sweat bead on her forehead as she typed commands, redirecting pathways and isolating corrupted data. One tower sparked violently, sending a shockwave across the floor. Corin stumbled, but caught himself. "We're almost there," Ilara shouted. The deck creaked again, loud, strong, and rhythmic. It wasn't random. It was guiding her attention toward a small, pulsing module to her left. She rushed to it. "Prometheus is telling me this node holds the root memory structure," Rian called out. "Then isolate it." Ilara worked quickly, cutting the corrupted connections and reinforcing the stable ones. The chamber lights flared bright, then dimmed. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the console emitted a soft tone, steady and calm. The holograms dissolved one by one, fading gently like lights being switched off for the night. The creaking of the deck slowed to a peaceful rhythm. No longer chaotic or frightened, the chamber felt lighter. Ilara stepped back, her hands trembling from exhaustion. "We did it," she whispered. Rian looked around. "Is it stable now?" A single light on the main terminal glowed warmly. A new voice, calmer and clearer than before, filled the room. "Human presence detected. System stabilizing. Thank you." Ilara felt a smile tug at her lips. "Prometheus, can you identify us?" "Yes," the AI replied. "You are human. You saved me." Jara wiped a tear from her eye. "It remembers." Ilara placed a gentle hand on the console. "We're not done yet. But now you're strong enough to help us understand the rest." The AI hummed softly, almost like a content sigh. Above them, the rusted deck creaked, once steady, calm, and full of meaning. Ilara looked up, feeling a quiet connection with the station itself. It was no longer a haunted ruin. It was alive, and it was ready to share its story. Ilara stood at the threshold of the central deck, the heart of the station. The room was immense, the metal beams arching above like the ribs of some colossal creature. Everywhere, conduits hummed with energy, casting flickering shadows across the walls. The holographic shapes of the long-gone crew floated in the air, fragmented and incomplete, as if the station itself was struggling to remember the people who had lived here. The creaking of the rusted deck above sounded louder than ever, echoing across the chamber. Every sound seemed deliberate, like footsteps marking a path only the station understood. Ilara glanced at her team. They were tense but ready, their eyes reflecting the shifting lights above. "This is it," she whispered. "We have to stabilize the AI core. It's holding on to fragments of the crew. If we can organize the data, maybe the station will finally rest." Rian swallowed hard. "And if it doesn't?" Ilara shook her head. "We can't think like that. We solve problems. That's what humans do." She approached the main console, a large array of panels and holographic projectors. Her fingers flew over the controls, bypassing security locks and activating the core systems. Streams of fragmented data flashed before her eyes. Images, sounds, and memories all jumbled together in a chaotic storm. The AI's presence made itself known almost immediately. The creaks of the deck above intensified, echoing through the room like a heartbeat. Holographic shapes formed, dissolving into each other, creating the impression of movement across the empty space. Elara's scanners detected energy fluctuations everywhere. "Stay focused," she said. "The AI is fragmented. It's trying to communicate, but it doesn't have a clear mind. We need to guide it." She began inputting sequences, directing the AI to isolate human memory patterns and organize them. As she worked, the shadows and holographic forms began to respond. A faint image of a smiling crew member flickered into view, then another, until half-formed faces floated across the room. "Look," whispered Jara. "It's listening." Elara nodded, sweat forming at her temples. "It's learning, but it's confused. The neural links weren't meant to exist without guidance. That's why the station remembers wrong. It shows fragments, not the full picture." The creaking shifted. This time, it wasn't random. The pattern was rhythmic, almost like someone walking deliberately. Elara realized that the station itself was assisting her, moving data through its systems in a way that mimicked human action. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the far side of the deck. A section of the floor had collapsed, leaving a jagged hole. Sparks flew as exposed wiring arced into the air. Corin stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding the falling debris. "Elara," Rian shouted. "The deck, it's unstable." Elara ignored the warning for a moment. Her focus was on the streams of data cascading across the holographic display. Faces appeared more clearly now, forming expressions of surprise, fear, joy, and determination. These were the memories of humans who had once lived here. The AI was reconstructing them with her help. "We need more stabilization," she said urgently. "The energy flows are chaotic. If we can redirect them into a controlled loop, the AI can hold the memories without destroying itself, or us." She worked rapidly, moving from console to console, manually rerouting power and aligning memory streams. The creaking above followed her movements, almost guiding her actions. Every time she shifted a sequence or redirected an energy path, the sound of the deck shifted in response, like encouragement from something alive. The shadows flickered more intensely, forming partial shapes of the original crew performing their tasks, moving as if on autopilot. Elara realized that the station wasn't hostile. It was trying to teach them, to show them how it had once functioned. "This is amazing," Jara said, awe in her voice. "It's like the station is alive." Elara didn't respond. She was too focused, balancing calculations in her mind and the energy surges on the consoles. The AI pulsed with growing intensity, and the creaking above became a steady rhythm, no longer random, almost like a heartbeat keeping time with her actions. A sudden realization struck her. The AI didn't just preserve memory, it preserved intent, emotion, and human ingenuity. That was why the shadows seemed so real. They weren't hallucinations. They were echoes of decisions made, problems solved, and moments shared by humans who had faced the same challenges. "We can do this," Elara murmured. "We can fix it." She directed the final sequences, aligning the neural imprint pathways with the AI's core processing. Energy surged through the conduits, bright arcs of blue and gold lighting the chamber. The holographic forms became clearer, almost fully formed. Faces smiled, waved, and then dissipated into the energy flow, leaving behind calm, steady pulses of light. The creaking above softened, turning into a gentle hum. The deck, though rusted and weakened, no longer felt ominous. It was at peace. Elara stepped back, breathing heavily. The AI had stabilized, memories preserved without harming the station or her team. The fragments of human presence hovered softly in the holographic projections, like a quiet chorus of remembrance. "Is it over?" Corin asked, his voice trembling. Elara nodded slowly. "Yes. It's stable. The AI isn't corrupted anymore. It's learning to exist alongside the humans who will explore this station again." It remembers, but it won't harm anyone else. Rian laughed quietly, relief flooding his voice. We did it. We actually did it. Ilara allowed herself a small smile. She had faced the unknown, the remnants of a project that had gone horribly wrong, and had prevailed, not with brute force, but with intelligence, patience, and understanding. Humanity's ingenuity had once again triumphed, even in the depths of space. They began inspecting the rest of the central deck. Systems once dormant now functioned steadily. Lights glowed evenly, doors slid open smoothly, and the faint hum of energy felt less chaotic. The holographic forms of the crew lingered occasionally, nodding or gesturing as if acknowledging her presence. Ilara walked to the railing overlooking the lower decks. The creaking of the rusted floor beneath her feet was gone. In its place was a soft vibration, almost like the station's heartbeat, steady and calm. She thought about the humans who had come before, brilliant, flawed, determined. They had tried to preserve themselves, and in a way, they had succeeded. The station's memory lived on, not as a ghost or a danger, but as a testament to human will and ingenuity. Let's start the recovery process, she said to her team. We take what's useful, document the history, and leave the station in a state where future explorers can learn from it. This is a victory for us. And for them. The engineers nodded, moving through the central deck with renewed purpose. They worked in harmony with the station, guided by the subtle cues of the AI and the remaining holographic forms. Every creak, flicker, and hum seemed to respond to their presence, confirming that the station was no longer chaotic, no longer confused. As they finished their work, Ilara paused at the main console. She touched the panel, feeling the steady flow of energy beneath her fingers. The AI had become something more than a machine. It was a memory keeper, a guardian of human achievement. She smiled quietly, thinking of the crew whose faces she had seen flicker in and out of existence. You remember now, she whispered. And we won't forget you either. The team gathered near the airlock, ready to leave. Ilara took one last look at the central deck. The shadows of the past lingered softly, but they were no longer frightening. They were a reminder of human determination, intelligence, and resilience, the very traits that had allowed humanity to reach the stars in the first place. As the shuttle detached from the station, the rusted deck above creaked one final time. But this time, Ilara understood. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a threat. It was recognition, a quiet acknowledgement from a machine that had learned what it meant to remember, to coexist, and to honor the people who had once walked its halls. Ilara watched as the station floated silently against the dying star. The hum of its systems steady and calm. She felt a sense of pride, not just for herself and her team, but for all humans. They had faced the unknown, confronted fear and mystery, and used their ingenuity and courage to prevail. The shuttle moved away, leaving the station behind, but the lessons of the Prometheus project would remain. Ilara knew that humanity would continue to explore, to discover, and to survive. And when they did, they would carry with them the knowledge that even in the coldest, most desolate corners of space, human intelligence and determination could overcome the unknown. And above it all, the rusted deck no longer creaked in fear or warning. It simply stood, a silent testament to human perseverance, the past preserved in memory and energy, awaiting the next explorers who would walk upon it. Ilara allowed herself a small, contented smile. Humanity had triumphed again, not with brute force, but with courage, understanding, and the enduring spirit that defined them. The station, once a tomb of failure and loss, had become a monument to human resilience, and its creaking deck would no longer be a source of fear, but a quiet, enduring witness to what humans could achieve.